Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to another episode of the Talk Room series of podcasts. I'm Wendy, and today we're diving into a topic that many people find both relatable and challenging: the various difficulties that can arise during the Christmas period and the festive season. While Christmas is often portrayed as the most wonderful time of the year, the reality is that for many people, this period can bring unique stresses, emotional challenges, and mental health concerns that deserve our attention and understanding. For those who are joining us for the first time, I would like to introduce my co presenter, Ian. Ian is a senior accredited National Counselling and Psychotherapy Society member and the founder of Hope Therapy and Counselling Services. Hope is a counselling and coaching organisation offering support throughout the UK for a wide range of concerns and challenges, and works extensively with many people navigating seasonal emotional difficulties. So, a warm welcome, Ian.
Thank you, Wendy. And let me return the favour by introducing you. Wendy is a highly experienced CBT psychotherapist who's been involved in the field of mental health and wellbeing for well over 30 years now. We're both absolutely passionate about helping people navigate their mental health, their relationship, and their wellbeing journeys. And today's discussion about the challenges of Christmas is particularly important given how many people struggle during this time of year.
Absolutely, Ian. So agree with that. So, let's start with the obvious question. Christmas is supposed to be a joyful time. So, why do many people find it so difficult?
Yeah, a really important question, Wendy. And you're absolutely right that there's often this disconnect between how Christmas is supposed to feel and how it actually feels for many people. The reality is that Christmas brings together almost this perfect storm of potential stressors. There's the financial pressure, and research shows that the average UK household spends over £800 during the Christmas period, which can create genuine financial strain for many families. There's also the social expectations, and Christmas comes with this unspoken rule book about how we should feel happy, how we should feel grateful and close to our families. But for many people, dealing with difficult family relationships or grief or loneliness or mental health challenges, these expectations can just feel incredibly overwhelming and can create a sense of failure, a sense of inadequacy. There's also what psychologists call anniversary reactions as well. Christmas can be a particularly difficult time for people who have experienced some form of loss, as it highlights the absence of a loved one. The first Christmas after losing somebody can be especially challenging, but even years later, the festivities can trigger waves of grief. And let's not forget, there's also this practical pressure surrounding organizing family gatherings, cooking elaborate meals, buying gifts, managing children's expectations while they're off school. It can be absolutely exhausting for people. And I think for people who are already dealing with stress or dealing with anxiety or depression, it can just be the thing that pushes them past that coping threshold for them.
Absolutely. And that really captures how complex this period can be. And I'm wondering if you could say a bit more about the specific ways that Christmas might impact on someone's mental health, Ian.
Yeah, absolutely, Wendy. The Christmas periods can affect mental health in several very distinct ways, and it's really important for us just to recognize these patterns so that we don't blame ourselves for how we're feeling. The first that might impact some people is seasonal affective disorder. It's one factor that can be quite an important component for some people. Christmas falls during the darkest part of the year. There's reduced sunlight, and that can significantly impact mood and energy levels. And some people just experience either what's called the winter blues or even more severe seasonal depression. And then there's social anxiety as well. This can often intensify around the Christmas period. There are far more social obligations, family gatherings, work parties. And for people who really struggle with social situations, it can just feel absolutely overwhelming. The pressure to appear cheerful, to appear sociable when they're not feeling it can be absolutely exhausting for some people. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there can be issues around grief and loss, which can be particularly acute at this time of year. Christmas is so family focused that if you've lost someone important or if you're estranged from family, the sense of absence can feel completely magnified. And people often say Christmas makes them feel more alone than ever. And then there's financial stress and financial guilt. And these can be really huge factors for some people. The pressure to buy gifts, to host meals, to participate in expensive activities can just create really quite genuine, intense anxiety for some people, especially for people on limited incomes. And there's often guilt around not being able to provide what they think their children or their family or their friends expect from them. Then there's issues around perfectionism, issues around comparison, and this can really spiral around the Christmas period. We look at social media, it's absolutely full of perfect Christmas setups, and there's pressure to create this magical experience for people prone to self-criticism. Christmas can just trigger really intense feelings of not being good enough. And as a parent, as a partner, family member, or just as a friend, the other thing that we really have to think about is for people dealing with eating disorders, the focus on food during Christmas can be particularly challenging, and the abundance of food, the social pressure to eat, and the disruption of normal routines can be really destabilizing for many people. So that gives us a little bit of a flavour of some of the factors that can be playing out, Wendy.
Absolutely. And there's so more, isn't there? You can see how Christmas can trigger all those mental health factors. Absolutely. And that these are such really important points, aren't they? And I think what you're describing is Christmas can really amplify existing vulnerabilities. And I'm just wondering, what about people who might be dealing with family difficulties? How does Christmas impact on those dynamics, do you think?
Yeah, really good question again, Wendy. And it's one of the most challenging aspects for many people. Christmas has this mythology around family togetherness, but the reality is that family relationships are complex, and not all families are safe or supportive spaces. For people with toxic or dysfunctional families, Christmas can just feel like being trapped. There's enormous social pressure to spend time with family, regardless of how that family treats you. People often feel guilty for not wanting to be around relatives who are highly critical of them, who may be manipulative, may even be abusive towards them. And one of the things that we need to think about is boundary setting. It can become really quite difficult during this Christmas period. It's harder to say no to family events or limit contact when there's this cultural expectation that family comes first. And people often sacrifice their own well-being to avoid being seen as the difficult family member. Role expectations can be particularly stressful. And often one person in the family, frequently women, become responsible for organizing everything, cooking, gift buying, managing everyone else's emotions. And this can create resentment and it can create a sense of exhaustion amongst people. For people who've gone no contact or have gone low contact with family members, Chris, Christmas can just trigger really very intense guilt and second guessing. They might think maybe I should reach out, even when they know the relationship is harmful to them. And then there's issues around childhood trauma, and this can be really re-triggering during this particular time of year, during the Christmas period. If someone has difficult memories associated with family gatherings or sensory experiences at Christmas, certain smells, certain sounds, certain traditions can all bring back painful memories and emotional responses. And there's the challenge of navigating different families as well. So when we're married or we're in a partnership with somebody, trying to balance time between different sets of relatives, managing competing expectations and dealing with family politics can just create tensions in the relationships that we find ourselves in.
Mm. Okay, yes, absolutely. And it's really clear that family dynamics can be really challenging during this time. Absolutely. But I suppose on the other side of the coin, what about people who might be dealing with loneliness or isolation during Christmas?
Yeah, again, a really excellent question. And loneliness during Christmas is incredibly common and can be particularly painful. The cultural narrative around Christmas is so focused on togetherness that just being alone can feel like a personal failure, even when it's not. Recent life changes can make Christmas particularly isolating. And someone who's recently divorced or bereaved, or they've just moved to a new area, or they've experienced other major life transitions, might find themselves without their usual support networks, without the usual tradition. And the first Christmas after a significant change can feel particularly overwhelming and particularly empty for them. Social isolation affects many people, elderly individuals whose friends and their family members may have passed away, people with social anxiety who struggle to maintain relationships, or those with physical or mental health issues that limit their ability to socialize. Work and lifestyle factors can contribute too. People who work in healthcare, emergency services, or retail often have to work during Christmas, and they often end up missing out on different gatherings and feeling that a sense of disconnection from the whole celebration of Christmas. There's also what we might refer to as the comparison trap, and this is particularly cruel during the Christmas period. We have social media and cultural messaging. It just shows constant images of large family gatherings, perfect celebrations, a sense of joy, which can make someone spending Christmas alone just feel like something is fundamentally wrong with them. There's also what we might refer to as anticipatory loneliness, the dread that just builds up weeks before Christmas actually arrives for different people who know they'll be spending it alone. The anxiety can actually be worse than the day itself. And it's important to mention that loneliness isn't always about physically being alone. Many people feel profoundly lonely even when surrounded by family, especially if those relationships lack emotional connection or emotional understanding.
Yeah, and that's a really important distinction that loneliness isn't just about being alone. And now I'm just wondering, just given all those challenges you've just pointed out to us, I'm wondering about the practical side. I'm wondering what people can do if they are struggling with Christmas.
And that, of course, Wendy, is the absolutely crucial question, isn't it? And I want people to know that there are genuinely helpful strategies out there, both for managing in the moment and also in terms of longer term support as well. Redefining Christmas traditions is one really powerful approach. So people often feel trapped by tradition that no longer serves them. It's okay to create new traditions that feel authentic, that feel manageable. And that can come in many different forms. It maybe it's about volunteering instead of a family dinner, or having a quiet evening with close friends instead of feeling the pressure of a big celebration. Setting boundaries can become absolutely essential, even though it can feel really difficult to do. So, this might be about just saying no to certain events, limiting time spent with challenging family members, or being clear about what you will and you won't do. Remember, you can care about people without sacrificing your own personal well-being. So, if we think about managing expectations, both your own and others, that can just reduce a lot of the stress around this time of year. So, Christmas doesn't have to be perfect. That's a really important message. Christmas doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to look like what you've seen on social media or on the front of an advent calendar or what you remember from childhood. Good enough is still genuinely good enough. And then we can think about financial planning, and that can just help to reduce anxiety. It's quite significantly, actually. Setting a realistic budget and sticking to it, focusing on meaningful rather than expensive gifts, or even discussing with family about scaling back expectations a little bit. It can just take away a big source of the stress that we may feel. And then we might think about self-care strategies. These can become even more important just during this period of time. And this might include maintaining regular exercise routines, ensuring you get enough sleep despite the disruptions of everything that's going on around you, practicing mindfulness, practicing meditation, being mindful of alcohol consumption, which often increases during the Christmas period, but can also have the impact of worsening our mood and worsening our anxiety as well. And then we might think about things like grief rituals. And this can be really helpful for people who are missing loved ones. And this might include lighting a candle, looking at photos, creating a memorial tradition of how we might feel some sense of connection to those that are no longer with us. Acknowledging the absence rather than pretending everything is fine can be a really healing and really meaningful thing to do. And of course, professional support is always an option as well. Many people think they should be able to cope with Christmas on their own, but there is no shame in reaching out for help during a particularly challenging time. So, just some ideas for us to hold on to and remember, Wendy.
Absolutely. And they are most definitely really practical suggestions. And that's very useful and very good to hear those. I'm just wondering that some people still might feel guilty about not enjoying Christmas or about needing to make these changes. So, what would you say to someone who feels like that?
Yeah, and such an important question, Wendy. And the guilt around struggling with Christmas is incredibly common. I'd want people to understand that their feelings, first of all, are valid and they're not broken in some way or ungrateful for finding Christmas difficult. I think permission to feel differently is absolutely crucial. You're allowed to find Christmas stressful. You're allowed to find it sad. You're allowed to find it overwhelming. You're allowed not to enjoy traditions that don't work for you anymore. You're allowed to prioritize your mental health over social expectation. So I think challenging the narrative can be really powerful. The idea that Christmas should be joyful for everyone is simply not realistic. Christmas is a human experience, and human experiences include the full range of human emotions. Struggling during this time doesn't mean you're failing at life. And self-compassion therefore becomes absolutely key. Try to speak to yourself the way that you would speak to a good friend, the way that you would speak to a loved one who was struggling. Speaking to yourself in that way, offering yourself that same compassion that you would show to somebody else. You wouldn't tell them that they're being dramatic or they're being ungrateful. Extend that same kindness to yourself. It's also worth remembering that many people struggle during Christmas, even if they don't talk openly about it. You're part of a much, much larger group, a much, much larger community of people who find this time of year really challenging. And there's no shame in that shared experience with others.
Mm.
I also think it's about focusing on values rather than expectations. And this can be a really helpful thing for us to do. What actually matters to you during this time of year? Is it connection, rest, gratitude, generosity? You can honor those values in ways that feel authentic to you, regardless of the historic, outdated traditions that may no longer serve you. So again, just some ideas there, Wendy.
Yeah, thank you. And that's really helpful. There's some really good ideas there that people can take away. So now I'm just wondering, people who feel that they do need more support than self-help strategies can provide, what might someone consider reaching out for professional help during the Christmas period?
Yeah, great question again, Wendy. And there are several indicators that professional support might be beneficial during the Christmas period. So if someone is experiencing persistent sleep difficulties, significant changes in appetite, or physical symptoms of stress that interfere with daily functioning, these can be signs that additional support might well be helpful. Relationship strain goes beyond normal holiday stress. So, if Christmas arguments or family tensions are causing lasting damage, or if someone feels unsafe in family situations, again, these can be really important reasons to seek support from a professional. Overwhelming anxiety about Christmas events, social situations, financial pressures that stop someone from functioning normally or makes them want to avoid everything and everyone entirely. Depression symptoms as well. So, depression symptoms that worsen during the Christmas period, especially if someone has thoughts of self-harm or feels hopeless about the future, it can be really important to reach out and get support. Grief reactions that feel unmanageable, especially if this is the first Christmas after loss, or if grief is really just interfering significantly with daily life. And then we might also think about things like substance use as well, that increases during the Christmas period, as well as a way of coping with stress or difficult emotions. And substance use, I would also include the use of alcohol or the excessive use of alcohol. And importantly, you don't have to wait until things become unmanageable. If you're finding Christmas consistently difficult year after year, or if you're dreading the season weeks in advance, speaking to somebody, speaking with a counselor can just help you develop strategies before you reach that crisis point. Many people think that you should be able to handle Christmas stress on your own, but there's no shame in getting professional support during what can genuinely be a challenging time for many people.
Mm. Okay, and yeah, that's really important guidance. Thank you for that. And I do think many people really don't realize that struggling with Christmas is common enough and that there are professionals specifically trained to help with these seasonal challenges. And that's really important to take away, isn't it? To actually it's no shame in accessing professional help. That's really important. And I'm just wondering before we wrap up, is there anything else you think people should know about managing Christmas challenges?
Yeah, thank you, Wendy. And I think the most important thing I'd want people to remember is that Christmas is just one day, and the lead up to it is just one season. It doesn't define your worth. It doesn't define your relationships or your life. You have more control than you think you do. And whilst you can't control all family dynamics or all financial situations entirely, you can control how you respond, what boundaries you choose to set, and what traditions you choose to participate in. It is okay to do Christmas differently than you've done it before or differently than other people do it. There's no Christmas police out there. There's nobody checking whether you're celebrating it. Small steps matter. So if you're struggling, you don't have to solve everything all in one go. That can just feel incredibly overwhelming. So maybe this year you just focus on getting through it. And next year, you work on making it more enjoyable. Really important to remember that your mental health matters more than anyone else's expectations of how you should celebrate or how you should feel. And taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. And just to remember, January comes, Christmas is temporary. If this Christmas isn't good for you, there will be another opportunity next year to approach it differently. And I think finally, if anything we've discussed today resonates with any of the listeners, any of the viewers, please know that support is available. You don't have to struggle through this period on your own.
Absolutely, Ian. I can't agree with you more on that. It's so true. I'm just wondering if someone has listened to this podcast and feels that they really might benefit from professional support during this challenging season, what could they do next?
Yeah, thank you, Wendy. If people are looking for support, they're very welcome to reach out to us, Hope Therapy and Counselling Services. People can go to our website, www.hopeforminds.co.uk. That's www.hopeforminds.co.uk. We have a raft of different resources on there, completely free of charge. If people want to speak to somebody, they can book in for a completely free of charge consultation with one of the team, and we can just help go through some of the issues they're experiencing and just talk to them about what support is actually available to them that can help them to navigate what, as we've already said, can be an incredibly difficult time. And you, Wendy, you're an incredibly experienced therapist. I know these are challenges that you support people through on a very regular basis. So maybe just telling people a little bit about you and your practice and how people can reach out to you if they want to get hold of you.
Yeah, so my website is my name, wendycastellino.com. So you just have to put that in and my website should come up. And there's lots of free resources there. There's an ebook for stress and there's one for men and for women, because I think sometimes the stresses can be different to your, not always, but it can be different according to your gender. And there's other free resources there as well. And there's some meditation practices. So there's lots of different things that you can get for free, or you can just book in a consultation as well if you would like to. That's also absolutely fine. So, just a final thank you to you, Ian, for your wisdom and your resources. And I think it's really good and important to talk about this, and so that people don't feel bad or guilty about not enjoying Christmas or feeling overwhelmed with stress over Christmas. So, thank you so much for your contributions. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And just remember, it's okay to find Christmas difficult. It's okay to do things differently, and it's okay to ask for help. So please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share this episode with anyone who might benefit from hearing that they are not alone in finding the festive season challenging. Take care of yourselves. Remember, you deserve support and understanding, especially through difficult times.
Thank you, Wendy, and thank you, everyone.